All right. Well, good morning, students. I am trying my first attempt here at a screencast. Basically, hopefully, this will model for you how to screencast in the future when you guys do an upcoming screencasting assignment. Anyway, I'm going to try this in one shot. It is Tuesday evening around 9 o'clock. I'm just trying to screencast my first lesson. Today's lesson that we're going to be talking about is on early religions. It's not too long, so sit with me, bear with me, try and pay attention as best you can. And although you are listening to this in the future, feel free to ask me questions. So today's lesson is on early religions. We're going to be talking about examining the roots of all religion, kind of an overview of some of the important religions and where they came from. So, first of all, you might be wondering, what is religion? We talked a little bit about this in class yesterday, but I want you to remember that religion does not have a set definition. However, it typically includes the following three main characteristics. Firstly, it includes the worship of a god or multiple gods. Secondly, it has guidelines about how to behave. And third, it provides answers to life's biggest questions. All right, on the right-hand side here, you'll see Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and those are some of the major world religions. Of course, there's many, many religions, hundreds of religions, and we'll basically be focusing on these five, and then also give you a chance to dig deeper into a couple more specifically. So, early religions. Let's start off with some of the major early religions. The earliest form of religion developed during the time of hunter-gatherers. During this time, we get what we come to know now as animism. And animism is really just the belief that humans, animals, all have a soul or a spirit. And sometimes this animism is demonstrated in inanimate objects. So objects like rocks, stones, plants. And a further few points about animism is really that spirits were assumed responsible for all things that occurred in nature, including weather. So it was a real focus here that spirits were responsible for what occurred. And that even in some cases, spirits could dwell within inanimate objects like rocks. Personification, which you may have heard in an English class. I know my wife sometimes talks about this in her English classes. It's a term used in literature and language and Greek mythology, and it really describes inanimate objects or animals as having human-like qualities. So, in some of these ancient religions, when they would speak about, let's say, a rock portraying or having a spirit, we would say that that's personification. Because for the average person, or not average person, but for someone who doesn't believe in animism, looking at that rock, they're just saying, hey, this is just a dead rock. Nothing here. But for somebody who believes in animism, they would say that they would demonstrate personification, because they would say that there is a living spiritual characteristic within that rock. So a little bit more about some early religions. So over time, these things were thought of as gods and really given specific names. So some of these inanimate objects started to become these godlike figures. As we progress throughout history even further, animism eventually gave way to polytheism. Okay, so animism then developed into polytheism. And what that means basically is the belief in many gods. So you've got this belief that starts where, we're giving inanimate objects belief. So we're saying that rock has a spirit. We're saying that stone or building has this spiritual entity to it. But what happens over time is you have all of these different animism godlike figures. And eventually it becomes polytheism, right? A belief in many different gods. So polytheism became the first religion in early human civilizations, including the Mesopotamians and the Egyptian civilizations. So polytheism, poly means many. Theism, of course, has that theology, religious undertone to it. So basically, we're talking about many religions out of one. So a brief little geography lesson here. The spread of early religion. So polytheism spread from the Middle East, right? So originally you've got this whole concept of polytheism, and it's believed to be centered in the Middle East as Indo-Europeans from the Caspian Sea settled in Europe. Okay, so it's the idea that now it's moving from the Middle East and spreading throughout Europe, and also being integrated into India. So polytheism really has a lot of its origins in the Middle East. These groups would eventually begin the basis of Hinduism and ancient Greek paganism, aka mythology. Now, a little bit later in today's lesson, you're going to have to create a diagram, right? And that diagram is basically going to be a bit of a mind map, and it's going to start in the center with some of the original religions and belief systems. And it's important that you kind of try and keep some of this together, right? So originally you've got your animism, moves into polytheism, is spread throughout the Middle East, is spread throughout India, is spread throughout Asia as there's more integration and cultural migration, and ultimately develops into Hinduism and Greek mythology. Now, ancient polytheism figures that are important you might be interested in learning about. So the main figures include this individual we call Skyfather. And Skyfather is referred to in different religions as different things. So Skyfather would be referred to as Dyaus to Indo-Euros, Indra to Hindus, Zeus to Greeks, and Changdi to Taoist religious followers in Asia. Also, another important figure is Earth Mother. And Earth Mother is Mata Prithvi to Indo-Euros, Mahimata to Hindus, Gaia to Greeks, Pachamama to several South American Andean peoples groups. That was my attempt to respectfully pronounce these names and enunciate them correctly, but it gives you a bit of a background here as to who these major ancient figures are. So remember, let's try and reiterate.